It's true. Speaking of Arsenal, do they need to go out, Kieran, and buy another striker? Gabriel Jesus is going to miss anywhere between 2 to 6 weeks with a very minor knee injury. A lot of Arsenal fans last night were talking about it. There's links to the likes of Mohamed Kudus and co. But do you think Arsenal need to go out and buy themselves a new striker or new forward now? Has the injury almost just made people realize that there's a weakness in the squad there?
There is a weakness because the drop off from Jesus to Eddie and even Balogun, who's completely unproven, is quite vast. The problem is Arsenal was not a problem. Arsenal are not panic buying. They don't panic buy anymore. So if it's a case that we're going to bring in a striker, it would be a striker that we were potentially going for in the summer next season or in January. So I don't see him bringing in another player. You've got the likes of Trossard who can play as a false nine. Havertz can play in the 9. If you want, Martinelli can play there. I just don't see Arsenal bringing anyone in to cover for Jesus, who will inevitably come back in the team and start week in, week out anyway. So it would be a nice option to bring in someone, but I don't see it happening, if I'm honest.
Would you want Arsenal to bring in someone, a striker?
Like I said, I'm buying into what they're doing. So I don't want them to rush out and go and get just anyone. If they're going to go and get someone Kieran, who you had the plan to get.
You're not answering my question, bro. I'm not asking what your club's doing. I'm asking what you will do.
If we are going to go and get someone like a Victor Osimhen or someone of that ilk who's different to Jesus, then yes. But if we're going to bring in another player who is a style of Jesus or just a player who, no. If we're going to sell another striker, if we're going to sell Eddie and maybe get someone in. But I just don't. I don't see it. I wouldn't unless it's the player that we are going to get next season or in January. I wouldn't go out and buy another striker.
I think you need one, man. Just for the fact that Jesus is basically Samba Martial at this point, man. Like he's good when he's on the pitch, but he's getting injured too much, and he's missing important games for you guys, which is unfortunate because obviously he's a very talented player, and you guys need him. Like someone like Mohamed Kudus coming into your team elevates your team not just on the striking front but also on the wings as well. Like you guys need that cover for Saka. But
that's different because that's a player who would have potentially come in anyway, regardless of whether Jesus was in or not, and he can play a multitude of different positions. So Kudus, from what my understanding is that he's coming in to be a competition for Saka, but can also play many different positions. So if we do go and get that, then yeah, sweet. But I don't think that's veering too far away from what we would have done anyway.
I think that's the right thing to do. I do get where you're coming from. Unless you're bringing in someone that's better than Gabriel Jesus, maybe not. £40 million Mohamed Kudus. I was listening to Dean Jones earlier on today. A lot of journalists are kind of shocked that he's still available. That this kid's ready to move. £40 million asking price, can play multiple positions, can cover in that striker role. That is who I would go for. If you're Arsenal, you've got to make that situation advance. You've got to push it onto that next level because it shows some frailties in that attacking area, if that makes sense. There's a super chat here that says thoughts on Arsenal going for, I think you mean Evan Ferguson.
Oh, good luck.
But that's going to be massive money. Again, there we go. Another Brighton player who we've only seen for one season, and he does look good. He looks like a bit of a monster, completely different to what we got. So yeah, it fits what I was just talking about there. But the price tag for this kid is going to be crazy.
You just signed a new contract. Yeah. Like literally in the summer, signed a new contract. You ain't getting him out.
You ain't getting him. You ain't getting him. No way.
Not a chance.
I've got to be honest. I think with the Arsenal situation as it is, the striker that you need that is different to Jesus that can get you sat next to, I believe Arsenal need a 25-goal, 30-goal season striker because you've got the creators in Saka and Odegaard. You want someone who can finish the chances that they're creating more consistently. That's not available right now. I think that becomes more... I don't think that's actually ever been available this window unless you're willing to pay 150 for Osimhen. So I'm actually... If I was an Arsenal fan, I'd actually take the gamble on Balogun. I think there's a real player there. I know he's not as proven, but to get 21 goals in League One last season in a side that was a bit naff at times... There's clearly something there. Jesus is only missing the first 5 games at like worst case scenario, apparently. So it's not like you need to buy someone to replace him for half the season. Balogun, for them first 5 games, that could almost be like a trial run, a test run, see how he fits in. If he is what Arsenal's missing, if he offers something different, then all of a sudden you might have that problem position solved because you were linked with selling him for 40 to 50 million. You might just save yourself 40 to 50 million on a striker if he's able to kick on from the form he showed last season. And then you're finally able to get Eddie Nketiah out the door, who is on one of the worst contracts I've ever seen. The man scored 2 goals after 2 seasons of Nottingham and got 100 grand a week. Like,
Kieran, correct me if I'm wrong. Kieran, correct me if I'm wrong, but with Balogun, I get the sense that he wants to go somewhere now where he's going to be like the main man. Week in, week out, gonna be first choice. I don't think, he's gonna stick around now because Jesus got injured, because he knows himself that Arteta wasn't planning to make him the first choice. Do you know what I'm saying? So he's gonna look at it like, oh, I could be banging in goals. Jesus comes back and then he finds his way back into the team. And as it stands, from my understanding, he's been training away from the rest of the team. He hasn't played since his first game. I watched that game, Arsenal's first preseason game. And he hasn't been playing since. So I think the plan is to move him on. I think they're going to move him on. I don't think Arsenal fans should even be looking at Balogun right now as part of their plans. I think they're looking to move him on. I think it's going to be Eddie. But if it's up to me, like if I was picking that team, I would probably play Trossard. He's the closest player that you're going to get to a Jesus. But I still think Arsenal need a finisher. The only player I can think of really is Tony. But again, he's not available till January to come back. And then if you want to take a punt on someone, maybe a Vlahovic that we're looking at. Do you know what I mean? He's a finisher. He's got a clean finish on him. So it's a bit peak in the striking market, but I do think you need a striker. I think you need a different type of player to a Jesus. You need someone that can just finish chances.
So a couple of things. So the first one, Tom said that Arsenal need a 20-goal season striker, which I get, because if you look at Jesus' stats and numbers, they're not the type you're expecting for a player who's going to win you the league. But Arsenal scored the most goals they've ever scored in the Premier League last season. And Arsenal didn't lose the Premier League because they didn't score goals. The games that they dropped where people say we fell off a cliff were 2-2 draw against Liverpool, 3-3 draw against Southampton, and a 2-2 draw against West Ham. That's not that weren't because we didn't score enough goals. It's because we leaked goals. It's because of poor defending and poor decisions. And in my opinion, we didn't quite have the squad to sustain the run till the end of the season. And with regards to Balogun, I completely understand. He's gone to France. He's had a season on loan. He smashed it in France. He wants to come back. But he's forgetting what club he's at. He's at Arsenal. Like, you can't expect to go to France for one season and be the starter for Arsenal the following season. It's crazy. Where is he going to go? There was talks with Chelsea. Why is he going to go Chelsea? What has Chelsea's history shown you that going to Chelsea, you're going to be the main man guaranteed week in, week out? Never. And
Kieran, you have to look at it from his point of view.
Never.
You have to look at it from his point of view, though, because he had a really good season. He's not going to be... there's going to be a lot of teams after him. There's going to be a lot of teams after him. So why should he stick around at a club where he's basically going to be like second choice or even third choice when he can go to a team where he can start week in, week out? So you have to look at it from that point of view as well.
You know what I mean? That, but who are the clubs that are in after him? There was talk of Inter Milan. It's Inzaghi, the manager there. He didn't want him because he wanted Morata. So
no, they're just broke. They're just broke. That's what the problem is.
And again, we're talking about Italy. They ain't got the money, and Arsenal were well within their rights to put that 50 million price tag, and he's not within his rights to turn around to Arsenal and say they should reduce that. It's crazy. Sit there, bide your time. You'll get games. I think Arsenal should sell Eddie Nketiah because I can see where his bar is. He's a goal scorer. Those players aren't really wanted in the top level of the Premier League anymore as starters. They're not. But I think Balogun should be the second striker as a second option for this season to see how he does. But yeah, I just get
the feeling his mind's made up. I think he wants to leave. I think he wants to go somewhere where he knows he's going to start week in, week out with no issues. That's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You can just say, that's how I see it.
Yeah, but you're going to have to, whatever team that is, it's not going to be, is that going to be anyone in the top 6? Is that going to be anyone in the top 8? Top 10? What top 10 team needs a striker? And are they paying 50 million for Balogun and having as their striker week in, week out? It's such a risk. It's such
I don't think he's fussed. I don't think he's fussed with. Ideally, he might want to stay in the Prem, but he's already played outside of the league, so I don't think that would be too much of an issue. I think if Inter Milan were happy to pay the money, I think he would have ended up going there.
Yeah.
West Ham apparently they wanted him, but again, they're not trying to pay up what you're asking for. I think it will get done. Whether that's what Arsenal bringing the price down, there's a lot of clubs that are definitely after this guy after the season that he had.
But they're not willing to pay the £50 million. And if Arsenal were to drop that £50 million, you'd look at that in comparison to everyone else who's getting bought and say that Arsenal have not got the value that they should have got for that player. They should use the heart.
Listen, I know he played in League R and he's very talented, but when you buy these young players with hype, unless you've seen them play for a quality team at a high level, it's hard to judge. You know, you think of Brewster at Liverpool, you think about, Jordan Ibe at Liverpool. These guys, they kind of went for some fairly serious money.
Solanke at Liverpool.
Solanke, yeah. I mean, you guys have striped up 3 clubs with bang average players. You even got to look at Chelsea's own version. Like, he didn't leave, but look at Callum Hudson-Odoi at youth level, a Don. As soon as he got into that first team, I saw skill, I saw technique. But when you're an attacking player, there are 2 outputs that if you ignore them, you're mad. And that is goals and assists. And unless you know he can, and I know that people go, he scored in League R. I know he did. But I've seen average players score lots of goals in that league. So it's such a hard barometer. I want to say average. They're all better than me. They're all better than everyone probably watching this show. I'm just talking about the elite end of the spectrum. So it's a hard one, really. £50 million is a lot of money. But if he was really, for me, if Arsenal really believed he was worth £50 million with barely any experience, they wouldn't be letting him go.
So what do you think of?
My view, yeah.
So with that, Terry, I don't agree with the comments, but the comments asking about Højlund, as in, does that logic not also apply with Højlund as well?
In what way? What logic?
The whole, like, you can't really speak on young players, young strikers without seeing them too much.
Højlund has played regularly. Højlund has played regularly in Serie A, one of the top 3 leagues in the world. He's played international football for his country in Europe, which is the hardest continent to play football in, and scored 6 goals in 6 games as an example. And he's being scouted by the big clubs. They want him. He's turned down PSG as an example. Man United want him. It's kind of the opposite with Balogun. I don't see any of the big clubs wanting him as an example. Arsenal have already got him. It's one of the biggest clubs in the world have him, and they're not bending over backwards to keep him. That's all. For me, that's just always a red flag. It's always like if you start dating a girl and she goes, I don't have any girlfriends, all my friends are men. It's a flash in the back of your head. No, it's true. It's a flash. I'm not saying he's not good, but there's just a red flag with this player for me.
Because we don't know.
Kieran, do you feel like Arsenal are kind of outpricing him a little bit? I know he had a good season last year, but let's be real. It's going to take a lot of convincing to keep him if Mikel Arteta wants to go down that route, because he's made it clear already, but just from his actions. You know what I mean? He hasn't played a single preseason game. He's been training by himself.
But he's injured. He's injured.
How are you training by yourself, but you're injured, bro? Come on.
I haven't seen anything about him training by himself. If I'm honest, I haven't seen anything about training by himself. But he was injured in that final game against Barcelona, and I've not seen anything since he's come back from that tour. So I don't know anything about Balogun training on his own. Look, he's a frustrated youngster who believes his ability. Sorry, I shouldn't say hype. But Arsenal, as I said, are well within their rights to ride off that wave of hype that's gone in France. Like you said it, Ryan Brewster. Liverpool have absolutely done Sheffield United over with Ryan Brewster because they knew how good he was, and he paid 26 million for him, which is crazy. But they were going off the form, which was a bit of championship form, and what he did in the under-17s World Cup. Now Arsenal clubs have seen Balogun do it in, yes, it's League R. It's not the greatest league in the world. However, they've seen enough of a player. They've seen the attributes of that player that, in comparison to what a top player is and what he can do in his game, what his development might be. They're buying potential. So, yeah, look, Arsenal, I don't think Arsenal want to sell, but if they have to, it's going to be at the price they want. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I'm looking at the market right now. We can all see that there's not that many striking options. And after the season Balogun had last year, and the fact that there hasn't been much concrete interest in terms of actually bidding for him and trying to, reach that 50 million, I do think you're outpricing him a little bit. Ideally, yes, you'd like to get that 50 M's, but I think Mikel, I think you're gonna eventually bring it down a bit. I don't know. I'm trying to think of someone. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a team right now that was going to pay 50 million for Balogun.
Well, I don't think teams will pay 50, but I think between I think looking at 40 to 45 potentially.
Yeah, I think that's more reasonable. 40 million is more realistic.
What alternatives there out there for a young striker? Who are the best young strikers out there?
West Ham will bite eventually. West Ham will pay that money once they sell that Gianluca Scamacca lad. That's what I said. They'll go in there and pay that money for Balogun.
Tay here says United paid 50 million for Martial in 2015 when he only had 11 goals in 49 appearances.
That's a lie.
Well, I think we paid 37 million. It would raise, but either way, did that work out? Like that's the thing, isn't it? Like when you buy young players, it also depends where they go. Young players need to go to a settled environment. Going to I think Balogun going to West Ham.
Awful.
Even though they won a trophy last year, just look what's going on there right now. It's like, don't do it. He's better off.
Yeah.
Like if he moves anywhere in the Prem, they don't need anyone. Like Villa right now would be a good move. Brighton, if they needed a striker, would be a good move. You've got to go to well-run clubs. You really got to do that. Look, and I'm not saying Balogun isn't a good player. I'm just stating if he had the ability to become one of the best, this is what I don't understand. And I know that Arsenal fans are, but he wants to play first team football irregular now. If Arteta and Arsenal believe that this kid could go on to be one of the best number 9s in the world, you wouldn't let him leave.
Yeah,
you just wouldn't. You just don't do that.
Yeah. Case in point, before he did what he did, like number 11 at Man United, teams were in for him. We said no, you're not. He's not leaving. Never let him out on loan. Started giving him games, and eventually became a first team player.
Yeah, Arteta understands that it's not all about the here and now. That's the only thing I'm saying. And Arsenal fans that disagree with my opinion, I'm asking you why Arteta is not saying, listen, I know Jesus is our guy, but Balogun's got the ability to be one of the best in the world. You'd have to give him that game time, because I don't remember a time in my life where my club or any of the big clubs have had one of the best young talents in the world, and we've said you're going to play with the reserves and get a League Cup game. Man United, yeah. Well, you guys loaned him out because he wasn't ready to play. But as soon as he was back in your first team, he moved straight in. Man United didn't buy an 18-year-old Rooney and Ronaldo and play them in the League Cup. Balogun's 22 as well, by the way. He's not a kid. He's young, but he's not a child anymore in football.
Yeah.
He's 22, turning.
Let's not forget as well. Let's not forget he's like playing for the American men's national team now.
Yeah,
starting
he won the nation
as well.
He won the nation league
so
as well.
I don't see anything wrong with him wanting more game time. And
no,
if he doesn't think he'll get out Arsenal, then yeah, I think 50 million is outpricing him a bit, in all honesty.
But even the teams that you mentioned there, Terry, Brighton's and Aston Villa's, he's not better than what they've got. He's not better than Danny Welbeck right now. And it sounds crazy, but like he's not. He's not. Is he better than Danny Welbeck? Maybe at certain attributes, but he's not. Is he better than Ollie Watkins right now? No, he's not.
He's not. Look, we need to dig into this.